Let me start with something simple. But don't brush it off too quickly, because the way you answer this can quietly shape the direction of your entire life. How do you actually tell the difference between what is true and what only feels true? Not in theory, not in something you read once, but in real life. When you're making decisions, trusting people, choosing paths that seem obvious in the moment. Because the uncomfortable truth is that most people don't really know how to do that. We're not trained to separate reality from something that just sounds convincing. And that's exactly why so many bad decisions begin disguised as good ones. And that's exactly what this story is going to show you. Not by explaining it directly, but by putting you inside a situation where the difference between truth and illusion becomes impossible to ignore. This is an ancient story, told centuries ago, about two men who faced the exact same journey, the exact same opportunity, the exact same conditions, and ended up with completely different outcomes. And what makes this story powerful isn't just what happened, it's why it happened. Because at its core, this isn't really a story about a desert. It's a story about how people decide what to trust when something looks right, feels right, and makes perfect sense, but isn't. Now, think about this for a second. How many times have you trusted something because it sounded logical, because someone spoke with confidence, because it made your life easier in that moment? And only later, when it was too late, you realized there were signs you ignored. Small details that didn't quite add up. Things that didn't fully make sense. But you moved forward anyway, because questioning it would have slowed you down. That kind of mistake doesn't feel like a mistake when it happens. It feels like clarity. It feels like intelligence. It even feels like progress. And that's exactly how this story begins. A long time ago, in a world driven by trade, ambition, and constant movement, two young merchants were preparing for a journey across a desert, known for one very specific reason. It exposed people. Not just physically, but mentally. It revealed how they think, how they interpret reality, and whether they can recognize when something doesn't make sense, even when it looks convincing on the surface. Both of them had everything they needed. Each one led a massive caravan of 500 carts filled with goods, animals, and people whose lives depended entirely on the decisions they were about to make. From the outside, there was no real difference between them. Same goal, same path, same starting point. But internally, they were operating in completely different ways. One of them moved fast, with confidence, with the kind of energy most people admire without thinking twice. He believed in taking advantage of opportunities immediately, in getting ahead before anyone else could. To him, going first meant control. It meant better access, better positioning, better outcomes. And honestly, if you were standing there watching him, you'd probably agree with him. It looked like the smartest choice. The other merchant didn't rush. He observed. He paid attention to details most people overlook, not just what was happening, but what might be hidden underneath it. He understood something subtle, but incredibly important, that when a decision feels too obvious, too easy, too clearly right, that's exactly when you should slow down and question it. And then came a simple question. Who should go first? It sounds small, almost irrelevant, but that's where everything begins to change. Because one of them chose immediately, without hesitation. And the other one chose to wait. And now there's a question forming, whether you realize it or not. Why would someone walk away from what looks like the obvious advantage? And more importantly, what did he see that the other one completely missed? The first caravan moved into the desert exactly the way you would expect a well-prepared expedition to move. Everything had been organized carefully, every detail accounted for, every risk seemingly considered. Large jars filled with water were secured across the carts because everyone knew what kind of place they were entering. This wasn't an unknown threat. It was a well-known one. The desert they were about to cross had a reputation that preceded it, a place where water didn't exist naturally, where survival depended entirely on preparation and discipline. And for a while, everything worked exactly as planned. The rhythm of movement settled in. The men followed orders, the animals moved steadily, and there was a quiet sense of confidence spreading through the group, the kind that comes from believing you're in control of the situation. But control is often an illusion that fades slowly, not all at once. At some point along the journey, something appeared that didn't belong there. At first, it was distant, almost unnoticeable, just shapes forming on the horizon where there should have been nothing. As they got closer, those shapes became clearer, more defined, until they revealed something unexpected. People. Not struggling, not exhausted, not showing any signs of having endured a harsh environment, but the opposite. They looked refreshed. Their clothes were visibly wet, not from sweat, but as if they had just come from water. Their hair dripped. Some carried fresh flowers, vibrant and alive, completely out of place in a land defined by dryness. There was even mud on their carts, thick and real, as if they had recently traveled through wet terrain. And this is the moment where everything could have changed. Because if you stop and really think about it, none of that makes sense. Not in that environment, not in that place. But here's the part that matters. The human mind doesn't always react to inconsistency with skepticism. Sometimes it reacts with relief. Because what they were seeing suggested something they wanted to be true. It suggested that maybe the desert wasn't as dangerous as they thought, that maybe conditions had changed, that maybe all the preparation, all the caution, all the weight they were carrying wasn't necessary anymore. The stranger they encountered spoke calmly, confidently, without pressure, without urgency. He described rainfall ahead, lakes filled with water, abundance waiting just beyond where they currently stood. And the more he spoke, the more reasonable it began to sound. Not perfect, not flawless, but convincing enough to plant doubt in what they already knew. And once doubt enters the picture, something interesting happens. Certainty weakens. Logic bends. And what once felt like a solid understanding of reality starts to shift towards something more comfortable. Then came the suggestion, delivered in the simplest possible way. If there's water ahead, why carry so much now? Why drag unnecessary weight through a desert that no longer demands it? Break the jars, lighten the load, move faster, reach your destination more efficiently. It didn't feel like a risk. It felt like an upgrade. And this is where the real question forms. Not about the desert, not about the stranger, but about something much more personal. Why do we trust what feels convenient more than what we know is true? The decision didn't feel like a mistake when it was made, and that's what makes it so powerful. There was no dramatic hesitation, no visible fear, no moment where everything stopped and someone said, "This doesn't make sense." It happened in motion, naturally, almost casually, as if it were just another practical adjustment to the plan. The jars were broken, one after another, and the water, the one thing that guaranteed survival, disappeared into the sand within seconds, leaving no trace behind. And for a brief period of time, it actually felt like the right choice. The carts were lighter, the movement smoother, the progress faster. There was even a quiet sense of satisfaction among the group, as if they had discovered a smarter way to navigate the challenge ahead. But reality doesn't correct you immediately. It waits. As the hours passed, nothing changed in the environment around them. The sky remained empty, the air dry, the ground unchanged. There were no signs of rain, no indication that what they had been told was true. And slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, something began to shift, not in the desert, but in their understanding of it. The confidence that once carried them forward started to weaken, replaced by small, unspoken questions that no one wanted to fully acknowledge. Where is the water? How much further? Did we misunderstand something? The problem with mistakes like this is that by the time you recognize them, the cost of fixing them is already too high. First doesn't arrive as panic. It builds gradually, turning from discomfort into distraction, from distraction into desperation. The body begins to conserve energy. Thoughts lose clarity. Decisions become slower, heavier. And even then, there's resistance. Not to the situation itself, but to the realization of what caused it. Because accepting the truth means confronting the fact that you trusted something without fully questioning it. They kept moving, not because it made sense, but because stopping meant facing a reality they weren't ready to accept. And when night came, it didn't bring relief, only silence and exhaustion. By the time the truth fully revealed itself, there was nothing left to change it. Weeks later, the second caravan arrived at that same place, under the same conditions, facing the same situation, but with one critical difference. This time, awareness was present. When the second caravan finally reached the heart of that same desert, something familiar appeared on the horizon once again. The same figures, the same visual contradiction. Men with wet clothes, fresh flowers, mud on their wheels, standing in a place that was known, without question, to have no water at all. And this time, everything unfolded in almost the exact same way as before. The approach, the calm tone, the confident explanation about rain ahead, lakes nearby, abundance waiting just beyond the horizon. The story didn't change. The offer didn't change. The illusion was just as convincing as it had been the first time. But the man facing it was different. Instead of reacting with relief, he paused. Not dramatically, not emotionally, just enough to create space between what he was seeing and what he was about to believe. And in that space, he began to observe, not just the message, but the details surrounding it. Because to him, truth wasn't something you accepted quickly. It was something you tested. He looked at the sky. Clear. Empty. No clouds forming anywhere in the distance. He paid attention to the wind. Dry. Still. Carrying no trace of moisture. He thought about distance. How far rain can be seen. How far thunder can be heard. How far a storm can be sensed. None of it matched. Not even close. And then there was something even more subtle. Something most people wouldn't notice unless they were really paying attention. The figures in front of him cast no shadows. That alone didn't prove everything, but it didn't need to, because he wasn't looking for a single piece of evidence. He was looking for consistency, and nothing about what he was seeing aligned with reality as he understood it. And that was enough for him to make a decision. Calm. Clear. Final. They would not throw away the water. Not a single drop. Because for him, truth wasn't defined by how convincing something sounded. It was defined by whether it could hold up under observation. And in the moment he refused, something interesting happened. The illusion didn't argue. It didn't insist. It simply disappeared. Because deception only survives when it isn't questioned deeply enough. The moment it meets clarity, it has nowhere to stand. As the caravan moved forward, still carrying their water, still grounded in what they knew rather than what they were told, the truth of what had happened before slowly revealed itself. Scattered across the desert, they began to find the remains of the first caravan. Broken structures, abandoned carts, and then the bones. Men, animals, everything that had once been alive, now silent. And surrounding it all, untouched, were the goods. the wealth they had carried, valuable, intact, left behind, because no one remained to claim it. And in that moment, the situation became undeniable. This wasn't bad luck. It wasn't chance. It was the direct result of a decision made without questioning something that seemed convincing. The wise merchant didn't react with shock or fear. He understood exactly what had happened because he had already seen the same trap and chosen not to step into it. So instead of turning away, he adapted. He replaced weaker carts with stronger ones from what had been left behind. He took the most valuable goods, not out of greed, but out of awareness, understanding that what was abandoned there was the consequence of illusion, and what he carried forward would now serve a different outcome. And then he continued. Same desert, same difficulty, same distance, but a completely different result. He reached his destination, traded his goods, returned home, and not a single person from his caravan was lost. Not because the journey was easier, but because he saw clearly. And that is where the story truly reveals what it was always about. Because this story was later told by the Buddha, not as entertainment, not as history, but as a direct response to something very human. There were people who, even after encountering truth, turned away from it when it was no longer convenient, when it required consistency, when it demanded awareness instead of comfort. They followed what was familiar, what was easy, what sounded good in the moment, and lost their direction because of it. So he told them this story, to show them something they might not accept if it were explained directly. That truth is not always loud, it's not always obvious, and it doesn't try to convince you. But illusion does. Illusion speaks confidently. It offers shortcuts. It removes effort. It tells you exactly what you want to hear, at exactly the moment you're most likely to believe it. And the difference between those who move forward and those who don't is not intelligence. It's awareness. It's the ability to pause when something feels too easy and ask, does this actually make sense? It's the discipline to hold on to what is essential, even when someone or someone tells you it's no longer needed. And maybe that's the real question this story leaves with you. Right now, in your life, what are you believing just because it sounds right? What are you being convinced to let go of without fully understanding the consequences? And what might change if you slowed down just enough to really see what's in front of you? Because sometimes the difference between losing everything and making it through is one decision, one moment of clarity, one refusal to accept what only looks true. If this story made you reflect, don't keep that insight to yourself. Take a moment and share in the comments what this made you realize, not just what you felt, but what you understood. What perspective shifted for you? And more importantly, what lesson from this story could actually help someone else avoid a mistake they don't even see coming in yet? Because sometimes one clear thought shared at the right moment can change the way someone else sees their entire path. And if you want more stories like this, stories that don't just stay with you, but actually sharpen the way you think and see the world, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and stay with us. Because the next story might reveal something you didn't even know you were missing.